we want to learn about young Kathy. Okay.
Okay.
We know the Kathy
right.
we know now. So tell us family background and what you think got you into the field of robotics.
Sure. So I was born in Chicago. We moved around 5 times when I was a kid, various Chicago suburbs, one time downstate. My dad was a banker, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom at first, then receptionist, and then later on turned into a computer programmer, believe it or not. So I had 2 brothers. We were all very close in age, 15 months apart. So it was your classic 70s dysfunctional family. You want to know what that looks like, Julia? Go to watch the first Star Wars movie and look at go to the scene where they're in the pit and they're all arguing.
I've actually never seen any Star Wars movie to this day.
It would be worth it to watch it just for that, so you understand what a 70s dysfunctional family is. Yeah, a lot of arguing in that movie. So that was kind of our family. Unfortunately, our parents just divorced when I was about 14 years old. So that made my teen years very, very difficult. I would say I was an angry teenager until I was about 29. So yeah, pretty much took that long for me to grow out of it. So then it came time to go to college, and we didn't have money with it because of the divorce. It was evident I was going to have to pay my own way. But I also didn't know what to major in. So I was talking to my mom. I remember I was in the kitchen. I was looking at college brochures because back then we didn't have the internet. So you literally wrote to the college and they sent you stuff in the mail. So I'm poring over these brochures and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she said, why don't you be an engineer? I'm like, what's that? Driving a train? How many kids' books have you read? Both of you. That it still says being an engineer is driving the train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know it then, but I'm a very analytical person. And I actually looked up the curriculums for the majors I was interested in. One of them was business and the other was engineering. So I was kind of comparing business to engineering. Why electrical engineering? Actually, young people are into music, right? Well, back then we got our music through the radio and through records, and you had a console that you looked at, and it had vents because there was so much heat and everything coming out of it. And I would look in the vents and kind of wonder how does that do that? So I had an innate curiosity. So I compared the curriculums of electrical engineering to the business curriculum. And I looked in, there was this book, it's still out there. It's a government book that says what every occupation, how much money they make, what the demand is, all this stuff. So I compared the two down to that level. What salary am I going to make when I get out of school? Am I going to be able to find a job? And when I compared the two, they both look good, but I saw that engineering actually paid quite a bit more. But then when I compared the curriculum, it was so much harder, right? But business, I was much more drawn to. So I was always very interested in business. So anyway, push came to shove. My decision was I'm going to major in engineering. And if I don't do well at it, or if it doesn't work out, I'm going to switch to business. So that was my plan. So had that figured out then, had to get accepted into school. So I got accepted at the University of Florida and also at Auburn University because I wanted to go someplace warm. I was always, okay, let's put it this way. Back in those days, I wasn't given a lot of coaching because I was kind of raised to be very independent. And I just remember freezing my butt off in the cold Chicago winters. And I couldn't imagine myself walking from class to class, freezing my butt off. I just knew I'd be miserable. So anyway, I'm getting too long-winded. Long story short. So I get to Auburn. I was a co-op student throughout school, which gave me, before I graduated, 2 years of industry experience. And growing up, I was always a good student. I always had good grades. And I graduated Auburn with high honors, 3.7 out of 4 GPA. So I did really well in school, even though it was a struggle, having to pay for it myself, et cetera. So graduated. I was thinking I was going to stay in the South because of the weather, but actually, even though, family life was dysfunctional, it's kind of like, well, if I move away, I'll have to always be coming back for the holidays, and I'll be the one going there. So I'm like, all right, forget it. I'm just going to move back. So I moved back, got a job. First job was Zenith, the TV company, worked there a year. And I worked at Siemens for 5 years. That's a medical equipment company. And then I ended up at Motorola for 15 years, where I had a really good ride. Motorola was awesome. I learned so much there. The formal training that you get at a big company is really invaluable and shaped who I became. Okay. And it gave the so many different experiences I had there, gave me a tremendous amount of knowledge. Here's a really interesting thing. I worked in research there for 9 years, and then I transitioned to a product team. When I was in research, I was working on video conferencing technology. So here we are.
Yeah.
Comes all the way around, and we're on a video call.
That's something.
It's just so amazing. So I have that. Now remember, what year was that? 2001. 1997, I remember designing the hardware for it.
That's when I graduated high school. 1997.
Okay, and it's the same as robotic lawnmowers. We'd show it to people, they'd get so excited, but then it just wasn't taking off. You know when it finally did take off? Skype. That was the first one. Yeah. There were little dabbles here and there, like our product that I developed, the circuits I developed. I remember seeing it in a flyer, or I forget what, maybe Best Buy or something. It was in an Acer product, I believe. But nobody bought it, right? Just the people living far away. But here we have this pandemic, and now it's taken off. So something's going to tip the balance in robotic mowers too. And when I got in way in the beginning, I knew it could be a 20-year ride before it takes off. I knew that. And I went in anyway.
Yeah.
And others who get in this business may not be as patient as me. So it's a major challenge. So, Anyway. Question?
Yeah. No, you're doing good. I was just letting you run with it. So.
All right, I can keep running.
So I mean, we know robotics is a passion of yours. Do you see, in this field, do you see any advantages or disadvantages to be, the robot lady?
Oh, yeah, the robot lady. That's another story. Okay. So 15 years at Motorola. And frankly, what did me in there, I was just fed up with the long commute. Through all my experiences at Motorola, I had been involved in several different startup efforts because I realized I was an entrepreneur trying to work in a big company, get stuff done in a big company as an entrepreneur. It's impossible. And since I like getting stuff done, I wasn't going to stay there and keep spinning my wheels and be miserable and then have the long commute on top of it, which I also really hated. Every day, same thing. Joe, if I listen to people talking, I know you love podcasts. If I listen to people talking, except for you, because you're super entertaining, it puts me to sleep. So
it's a good cover up.
So I would try listening
Kathy,
in the commute.
Did you hear what Julia just said?
What?
So that was a good cover up.
No, I really mean it. One thing you'll learn about me is I'm really authentic. So I actually really, really mean that. I'm going to be listening, a huge fan, and will be listening to your podcast always. But anyway, no, I did try it. I had a CD and I put it in. It was I don't remember what the topic was, but I remember I was driving and within like 10 minutes I was tuned out. I daydream. So it just didn't work. So anyway, long story short, I decided, look, and then at the end of it, okay, I'm working really hard at the end of my career at Motorola and I'm not getting the results. I've got this long commute. I'm like, if I'm going to have to work this hard, I might as well start my own business. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So then I had to decide what business. So my husband and I, we discussed it. He had done a business before. I had done a tiny business before. Well, I guess his was bigger than mine, but anyway, he had a lot of experience from his tiny business. I just had, like, I dabbled. Okay, I'm not going to call my first one a business. So with him being the mentor for starting the business, we got it off the ground, and then it was kind of like, well, sorry, I got to back up because I forgot to say how I picked it, but it was I was ready to do any business, to tell you the truth. I was going to like sell art supplies online. But we were actually in the market to buy a robotic lawnmower then. And we go on the website for, at that time, it was the LawnBot brand. And we're looking at the specs, trying to make sure, is it going to work for us? You know, we're both engineers, so we'd be able to figure that out, right? Well, they had this little emblem, dealers wanted. And I just said, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so that's how I ended up. To answer, long story short, to answer your question of how I ended up in robotics, that is how I ended up in robotics.
So, Kathy, let me tell you the good news. Most people that listen to podcasts don't fall asleep while they're driving listening to them. So your long stories are okay.
Great, I love it.
Yeah, it's okay with us. You know.
Okay,
so
good.
So we like them.
Thanks for the affirmation, because I'm a newbie to podcasts, and I find when I'm talking to people with these long stories, they get really bored. I see them shifting. I'm like, oh God, I got to.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, you're keeping us going. If you hear me drop my water bottle or something, that'll be the code word to keep
oh, thank you. Okay, perfect.
So honestly, I'm not going to do that. Now I might do it just to mess with you, but you know, one of the things though that I was trying to get you to say when I said being the robot lady, are you finding in this field, and this is more of a, you know, obviously I do this with my daughter, I want her to be more successful than myself. Any issues in this field you know, I mean, landscaping is a male dominated field. So are you finding any issues with that in the field, or I'm interested to hear your
so glad you brought that up. Actually, I just had an issue with that.
Really?
Yes, I went to do a reinstall for a customer I had installed in 2013. And I was very familiar with the property, but he had made some changes. He actually put sidewalks on both sides of the house. Mm-hmm. And he had put the sidewalks in like a couple of weeks ago. And there was a difference in the height between the sidewalk and the ground. And the installers that were helping me, they were great. They're really great guys, really meant well, but they didn't have a lot of installs under their belt, okay? And I was trying to explain that it's necessary for the ground to be level with the sidewalk in order for the robot to trim the sidewalk. Otherwise, you have to put the wire 14 inches away.
Yeah, you have to treat it as like a vertical surface.
I don't care what brand robot mower you're using. We promote Ambrosio, and previously same manufacturer, it was LawnBot. But I don't care which robot mower it is. They all need that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep.
It's physics, you know? Okay, well, should I blame the man-woman thing, or should I just blame it's just somebody who didn't know, it's new, so didn't know. I don't know, but I've run into this before where as a woman, and I'm trying to explain to a man that it needs to be this way, and there's good, reasons for it, often get dismissed, often. So in this particular case, the night we had to go back the next day, it was a few days later, and finish it, okay? And I'm getting dismissed again. Well, I had only had 4 hours of sleep, and I couldn't control it. I just went ballistic. I said, look, guys, I'm done experimenting, okay? It's not going to work, and we're going to do it this way. Oh, it worked. It was great. I tell you, don't be afraid to pull that trigger if you're not getting results.
So would you mind expanding on that? I feel like this is one of the things as her dad that I have tried to instill to her more than anything, is that part of the difference between men and women is the only difference, and I should tell you this because you and I are going to work a lot together. The only difference between us is I'm never going to be nervous to pull the trigger and say what I want to say. It doesn't mean that I am I think that women should be happy when they're dealing with a man that just says what he wants to say to a woman, because I'm not treating you any different than I expect to be treated. So then I always tell her, like, with us working together, I'm going to tell you, like, I want this done right now. If you can't, I want you to tell me it's not going to happen right now because I just can't do it. Because I'm saying, okay, well, when can it happen? You see what I mean? And I feel like a lot of women, I've had this conversation with my mom because she worked for the city of Elgin. A lot of women will like hold that in. I don't really know why it is. I don't know if it's upbringing. I don't know if it's just personality traits genetically. I don't know. But I will say, I applaud you. You just got to tell them, like, no, I'm not doing it. You know?
I want, again, I think I mentioned I listened to your first 3 episodes already. And Julia, I wanted to compliment you on something, because one thing that's going to really help you is your authoritative voice. You have a very authoritative voice. Probably, apple not falling not far from the tree could be, but whatever way you got it, I'm telling you, it will work. That will be the thing that works really well for you in your career.
I appreciate that, actually. That hit in the heart.
Yeah. So I actually worked I think I mentioned I worked at Siemens for 5 years, and that was my second job after college. And the person I worked for was actually a woman. And at the time, she was just an engineering manager, but she actually went on to become the president of a division. And you carry yourself the same way she did. She was tall too, by the way. I think tallness helps. It really does. Yeah. Tallness definitely.
I'm rocking the 5'9". Maybe.
Well, okay. She was 6'2" or something, but
okay, I assume 5'9".
I assumed. Yeah.
Well,
that's right. You did say you were 5'9". I forgot, but 5'9" is plenty tall.
Yeah. Well, no. The other day there was. I guess I was gone and we got a Husqvarna shipment, and the guys were telling me that she was like looking for pallet forks, and she's like, get those forks off that machine and go to that truck. And they said awesome. Literally it was like you'd almost thought it was like a reenactment of how I would do it,
Yeah.
Well, I was stressed. I was pulling the trigger.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I because I got to see that was so beneficial, because the men, they treated her properly, like a real boss, because she carried herself as a boss.
Yeah.
That's exactly why.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to overstep any bounds when I say this. I actually, this part of the podcast, because I hope I don't want to just teach about robotic lawnmowers. I want to kind of bring that gender gap to not be there anymore. And I think sometimes women think that, men want there to just be like a men's club, for some reason. I feel like I hear conversations and I listen to podcasts and hear these things. And as a man, I sometimes just want to say, no, we don't even think about it. Like, that's the thing about it that makes the problem. We act how we act because it's how we act. We think very little about the way we act. So, like, I think very little about what people think about me when I'm playing volleyball, unless I'm defending my position. Okay.
Yeah.
Women would think about it. Women would be like, how does somebody think about me when I'm doing it? We just don't care. So it's like, if for any women listening, because I think it'll help them understand. And some people know, guys, we just don't care. But I think sometimes that's an important thing to be said,
Yeah, I think you're onto something, and that's actually exactly what I was thinking. So, that's what I observe as well. After working in industry, my industry experience was totaled, I think, 23 years, and then add that to the robotic lawnmowers. That's 36 years. In all of my experience, I that's what it is. So you got to learn to not take offense by it, and learn what works for you when dealing with it. Now, I'm also in sales. Obviously, I can't yell at every customer, right? But I have had to yell at 2 customers, and it worked. I'm thinking maybe I'm trying this not enough, So
I find anybody that's good at sales, you really have to be a chameleon, and what I mean by that is every personality, like. So I and you know me, I'm very much an alpha A personality, but you have to know sometimes I know if I'm dealing with another alpha personality and I want to get the sale, I need to let them feel like they're calling the shots, you know. On the other hand, if someone does not have that type of personality and somebody is very laid back, I can definitely intimidate someone out of the sale, you know?
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So you truly have to, you know, this is part of like, you know, emotional intelligence. You know, you really got to figure out the person, not only that you're selling to, but the person you're managing, figure out what type of personality they have, and then try to manage or sell to that personality type. You know, I think the most successful people that's what we figure out, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I would say I'm still on a learning path there. And I know mentorship was part of the things you wanted to talk about, but yeah, I could use a mentor in that space, most definitely. So yeah, because I'm kind of like you, I am who I am, take it or leave it sort of thing. And it is challenging to get out of that, you know, and in sales and adjust for the person. In terms of employees, we don't have employees in our business yet. It'll happen at the right time. But one, I did want to mention about some training that I had at Motorola, where I don't know if you've heard of the Myers-Briggs test.
No, elaborate on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a game changer for me early in my career at Motorola. Everyone should take the Myers-Briggs test. It is a personality categorization test. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to get into too much detail. It's all over the internet. You could Google it, but it's basically helps you understand that there are different personality types. They represent it with 4 different letters, and it's the combinations of the 4 different letters. So I think it's 16 different types, if I remember correctly.
So I have taken this test. I just didn't know what it was called. I have to say.
Oh, you have taken it. Good. So that everyone needs to take the test. So it's like, are you extroverted or introverted? Are you a thinker or a feeler? Are you intuitive or are you, help me with the other one? I forgot.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I know for me, whatever test I take, it categorizes people into like it. So maybe it's a little bit different than this one, but so like mine comes up entrepreneur A. Okay. So it's like it classifies people into like sales, management, high level management. So it's trying to figure out how to put people in an organization.
Got you. Yeah, this is a different test.
Okay.
So you after you take the test, you'll figure out your makeup, your personality. So it's defining your personality. So for example, I'm an extrovert thinker. I'm not a feeler, I'm a thinker. A lot of women are feelers, just FYI. Men are too. I'm just saying many women are feelers. Let's see. And then there's intuitive versus, I forget what the other word is, but I'm intuitive. Okay. I think it's like intuitive versus whatever represents tactical. So it's kind of like creative people are more intuitive. You're intuitive, Joe. I'm very sure. I'm intuitive. And then the last letter is P versus J. Procrastination versus just get it done. And so I don't remember what the 2 letters stand for, but that's the way I remember them. So
you said this is called Myers-Briggs?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so
but you'll wonder why. Well, go ahead.
So here's what we're going to do. Julie and I, we're going to take this test together, and then on our next podcast, I'm going to somehow figure out a way to reveal which personality type we are.
Oh, that would be absolutely awesome if you did that. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then if you want, you can retake it and tell me, and I'll just for the audience, I'll tell them what all 3 of us were. It'll be kind of a good follow-up conversation.
Absolutely. I'll look into that.